It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to jump on that gigantic, sharp, interactive board, go through Kyocera's FY, which ends March of 2025. The numbers are in. We got halfway through this year. I'm looking at the numbers. As I'm preparing today's episode, I ran across this copied and pasted PowerPoint slide that a consultancy firm in our industry published, sent it out to the dealers. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? What in the hell? And I want to share some thoughts on that. So here's what I find. I find this PowerPoint slide that they copied off a website. The website is kabutan.jp. And you see this there. And they send it to the dealers. And I got to ask the question, does our industry really need more copy and paste consultants without the ability to provide editorial? What the hell is this going to do for a dealer? Seriously. You know, dealer gets their email. Oh, Kyocera's numbers are in. Oh, they did $500 billion? No, 500 billion yen. How much is that in dollars? Well, it's just stupid. And so I figure, they can't even take the time to go ahead and translate the damn yens for you. I'll do it for you. So for the second quarter, they did $3.3 billion. Operating profit was $110.4 million. They're showing a net income of minus $0.7 billion, which is $4.6 million. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, the only time you really care about the quarter numbers is the first quarter. I mean, when an organization finishes the second quarter, let's look at where they are 6 months in. When they finish the third quarter, let's look where they are 9 months in. To me, that's more important. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, because folks, the first half, the net income at Kyocera is $235.6 million positive. I think that's important. Some dealer gets this and they're thinking, oh, Kyocera's losing money. Well, they're not losing money. They lost money for one quarter, but who cares when you make so much the quarter before, when you're going to make so much the quarter after? I think it's important to provide some editorial, you consultants out there. Now, here's the other thing. I'm reading this synopsis over here, and there's a damn mistake in it. And then I'm thinking, okay, if you're going to copy and paste stuff, maybe you should proofread it before you copy and paste it. You want to know what the mistake is? Sure you do. Don't worry, I blew it up for you. Let me read this to you. Kyocera revised its consolidated earnings forecast for the fiscal year ending March of 2025, lowering, let me underline this, lowering its revenue projection from 2.05 trillion yen to 2.2 trillion yen, a 0.8% increase year on year. So we got some, I don't know. I got to tell you something. When I read this kind of stuff, I'm thinking to myself, how does this even get through? How do the editors even get through? I mean, this is just crazy, stupid stuff. You're lowering it, but then you're increasing it. And the mistake is a simple mistake, but they should have caught it. It says revenue projections from 2.05 trillion yen to 2.2 trillion yen. Instead of 2.2 trillion yen, it should say 2.02 trillion yen. That would actually be lowering. You see, they're so lazy, they can't translate the yens to dollars, and they can't even read the synopsis to see if there's a damn mistake in it. Craziness. So let's look at the facts. The facts are their previous forecast was 2.05 trillion yen, and they lowered it to 2.02 trillion yen. If you want to translate it to dollars, because that's all we care about here in America, what are the dollars? What does all that mean to me, right? Well, their previous forecast was $13,446 million. Their revised forecast is $13,251 million. That's what it means. And ladies and gentlemen, more importantly, if you're in the print business and you're getting these consultants sending you the OEM financials, they should kind of really share some details around the print business that we all care about. I mean, seriously. Because if you look at the forecast for the Document Solutions business unit at Kyocera, their forecast is $3.1 billion for the year. And by the way, that's plus $65.6 million from the previous forecast. See, that should get people excited. But when you read this copy and pasted nonsense that no one bothers to translate or even read to see if there's any mistakes on it, you could think, oh, cool, what's going on at Kyocera? Well, if you're in the print business, a lot of good stuff's going on at Kyocera. Let's look at this other number. The operating profit forecast For the print business, ladies and gentlemen, they're forecasting a $314.9 million operating profit. That's 10%. That's pretty damn good, isn't it? I mean, that's exciting stuff, right? Let's look where they are in numbers for the first half. $6.6 billion. Right? That way dealers understand. $6.6 billion. Wow, that's good. They're at $6.6 billion as a whole conglomerate. Their operating profit is $248.9 million, 3.8%. Now I can yell at Kyocera. Kyocera, 3.8%. What the hell are you doing over there? Because, you know, Kyocera last year, first half, they had a 5.5% operating profit. Well, we all know we got some issues going on, right? And folks, these issues aren't going away. You know, we saw Xerox, they took an impairment charge, you know, correcting some of those goodwill assets. But they still made operating profit, right? You know, we see, you know, Konica Minolta basically can't make money year after year after year. It's kind of a disaster. I just looked at Ricoh's financials, so I'll publish those probably next week. But folks, they're probably having a party at Ricoh because Ricoh's operating profit is 0.7%. So just a little bit over a half of 1%. They're having a party. They probably have a big sign up. We beat Konica Minolta's operating profit. Of course, if you're going to beat someone that's so far in the hole, you want to make sure you really, really beat them. Okay? Anyway, let's look at the revenue for the Document Solutions business unit for the first half. $1,522 million. It was a 9.1% increase over the same period of time last year. Congratulations, Kyocera. Let's look at the operating profit for the first half. $141.071 million. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 9.3%. That's huge. And so when you look at that slide I showed you that was, you know, had the mistake in it and they didn't bother to translate the yens to dollars, wouldn't you want to know if you're in the print business what's going on with this print business, right? I think you would. When I look at the operating profit for the Document Solutions Business Group, and I've showed this slide before, it's super impressive, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you start out at quarter one for the FY 2024. We're in FY 2025 with Kyocera. And you look at all these quarters, look at these operating profit ratios. Folks, you know, you got 9%, 10.4, 9.3, 15.2, 11.3, 10.2. I mean, there's not a whole lot of bad things you could say about their print business. And unlike some of our other OEM friends who bury all kinds of cost in these other divisions and try to beef up the print business profit, and even when they beef it up, it's only like 2 or 3, maybe 4%. Leaving you to question what the hell is really going on in that sector. At Kyocera is strong numbers. They've always been strong. Kyocera is making some changes. And they understand that the marketplace is changing. They're looking at their ownership in other entities. And they're going to sell some of the shares in KDDI. And folks, excuse me, I'm going to do a separate episode on this KDDI company because it's really interesting to me what KDDI is. But Kyocera has a pretty good stake in that company. And, you know, they got to look at what are they doing. You know, if we sold some of the assets in KDDI, sold some of those shares, you know, could we use those monies, in their case yens, and then I'll translate it to dollars for you, right? But can we use these dollars to do other things to help us grow Kyocera? Smart move. I mean, all organizations are going to be doing this. But I have to tell you, man, I'm looking at this KDDI. It's a communications company. This company, halfway through their FY 2025, they are $18.7 billion in revenue. So this is a $37 billion a year business in Japan, a telecommunications company. Look at their operating income, $3.7 billion, 20.2% margin. You're talking about telecommunications. Look at their EBITDA margin, 32.5%. And so, folks, I've been sharing some thoughts on the telecommunications industry and how I believe they could really get into the IT space here in America, and they could do a lot of things, helping customers through digital transformation, communication, and all that stuff. And the more I dig into this KDDI, the more I think that could happen, not only in Japan, but it could happen here. I also noticed when I was going through KDDI's numbers, they were sharing that they're doing an AI data center in that old Sharp plant. The one that Sharp took the big impairment charge. So it looks like they're going to do a deal with KDDI on that. So that's kind of interesting. I'm looking for Sharp's numbers. They'll be out, I think, next week. But folks, I got to tell you something. The world's changing. And when you look at these telecommunications companies, and I was digging a little bit deeper into that, but they're talking about DX, finance, energy, LX, regional co-creation, LX, life transformation, a business model that transforms, diversifying consumption, life experience and behaviors with an eye to the future. That's kind of a lot of goobly gob, but at the end of the day, technology around communication is more and more around digital communication. Our industry that printed communication had a really good run. But things are changing. Things are changing rapidly. But I thought this was really, really interesting. Stay tuned for more on this KDDI. I wanted to look at Kyocera's assets. I like sharing this because they're one of the best in the industry. But their goodwill and intangible assets are $2.8 billion, representing 9.6% of their total assets. That's great because I think it should be 10 or under. Their total assets are $29 billion. Their total liabilities are $7.7 billion. They have a $21.2 billion total equity. Asset to equity ratio is 73%, meaning 27% of Kyocera's assets are encumbered in some way. That's pretty strong. That's pretty good. Kyocera is a disciplined company. Kyocera will go through challenges like every single player in our industry. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to see how these challenges impact the industry's OEMs, because they are going to get impacted. And it'll be those organizations that understand the discipline and profitability. It'll be those organizations that can make decisions around what assets they need to liquidate, what investments they need to sell off, how are they going to use these revenues from the investments they sell off to grow their business, to change the game. A lot of things are at play, but if you're starting out at zero profitability, you're going to have a hard time playing in our ever-changing world. Because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all on Monday.